Hello everyone, welcome to the Tim Booker channel. I wish you all a pleasant listening experience. Today, the book I'll be interpreting for you is The Disease to Please, with the subtitle, Curing the People-Pleasing Syndrome. The disease to please, in simple terms, refers to what we often call the personality of pleasing others. The author of this book, Harriet B. Breaker, believes that if a person consistently prioritizes the needs of others, never says no to anyone, constantly seeks approval from everyone around them, and this compulsion severely affects their life, then they can be considered as sufferers of the disease to please. Strictly speaking, the disease to please is not an illness but a behavior pattern that accumulates over time. If you find yourself always helping colleagues with their work, never refusing even when you are busy, or going out to eat with friends, pretending to enjoy spicy food despite not being able to tolerate it, you might very well be a classic people pleaser. The author of this book, Breaker, has 25 years of experience as a professional clinical psychologist and management consultant. Throughout his career, he has treated hundreds of visitors suffering from the disease to please. The origin of this book is also related to the famous American talk show host Oprah. In 1999, Breaker appeared as a guest on Oprah's talk show, and Oprah confessed that she herself was a people pleaser, struggling with it for a long time. Oprah advised Breaker to write a book to help people suffering from the disease to please, which ultimately led to the creation of the book we are discussing today. Today, I will primarily divide my discussion of this book into two parts. The first part will focus on the different types of people pleasers and what drives them to compulsively please others. The second part will explore how to break free from the trap of people pleasing. Alright, let's delve into the first part, discussing the types and reasons behind people pleasers. There are three types of people pleasers. The first type is the cognitive people pleaser. This type of people pleaser harbors erroneous thoughts that guide them to engage in a series of behaviors aimed at pleasing others. One very common flawed thought among cognitive people pleasers is the should mentality. For example, they believe they should meet others' demands and expectations, should take care of everyone around them, regardless of whether others have sought their assistance. They also believe that others should appreciate and like them because they've done so much for them. People who constantly think this way often tend to be perfectionists. They set high expectations for themselves and others, and when those expectations are not met, they feel particularly frustrated and even blame themselves. Consequently, they go to great lengths to please others, ensuring that everything goes according to their desires. One of the most detrimental thought patterns in should thinking is the idea that I should be a good person. Being a good person is not inherently problematic, but some individuals become excessively fixated on being good and interpret it as an inability to say no to others, express anger, or even entertain thoughts of dissatisfaction or criticism towards others. Those with this mindset force themselves to cater to everyone's needs while simultaneously expecting others to like and praise them, as they believe that being a good person should guarantee that. If someone expresses dissatisfaction with them or contemplates abandoning them, these compulsive do-gooders tend to assume they must have done something wrong to cause the dissatisfaction. Consequently, they intensify their efforts to please others, thereby becoming people pleasers. In addition to should thinking, cognitive people pleasers also commonly hold the erroneous belief that taking care of themselves is equivalent to selfishness. Many people pleasers simultaneously entertain two choices: being entirely selfless, prioritizing others' needs, or being entirely selfish, prioritizing their own needs. They see these two choices as incompatible, with selfishness being an undesirable quality. They put in tremendous effort to become entirely selfless because they believe that being selfish is unacceptable. However, people pleasers often fail to recognize the vast middle ground between selfishness and selflessness, which the author refers to as enlightened self-interest. Enlightened self-interest entails taking care of oneself, sometimes even prioritizing one's needs while simultaneously considering the needs and well-being of others. Numerous examples demonstrate the validity of this concept, such as a mother needing to care for herself to properly care for her child, or firefighters taking precautions to protect themselves first to rescue more people. Therefore, prioritizing one's needs is not selfish but rather a necessary endeavor. These are the two erroneous thought patterns common among cognitive people pleasers. The author posits that these flawed beliefs do not spontaneously implant themselves in an individual's mind but are typically influenced by their upbringing and family environment. For instance, a child who was overweight or had other perceived flaws in childhood might have developed a fear of others not liking them or playing with them. They might have believed that they simply needed to be a good person and accommodate others, a belief that persisted into adulthood and solidified into a people-pleasing personality. Having discussed the first type of people-pleaser, the cognitive type, let's now delve into the second type, the habitual people-pleaser. As mentioned earlier, cognitive people-pleasers engage in pleasing behaviors consciously, guided by specific thoughts. In contrast, habitual people-pleasers engage in pleasing behaviors almost like an addiction, without conscious awareness. While most of us seek approval and hope to be liked by others, for habitual people-pleasers, the approval of others is as vital as air, and they feel they cannot survive without it. Consequently, they are perpetually attuned to the needs of others and proactively meet those needs to gain approval. So why do habitual people-pleasers have such an intense need for approval? The author believes that individuals become people-pleasers through learning from their surrounding environment. This learning process can be categorized into two primary forms. The first form of learning is called role modeling, where people-pleasers mimic the way people around them navigate life and internalize those behaviors. Typically, the most significant role models are their parents. If a child grows up watching their parents always saying yes to others, constantly striving to meet the needs of others, and if acquaintances like uncles and aunts frequently say, "Your parents are such good people," the child will naturally think that what their parents are doing is right and good. Subsequently, they will emulate these behaviors and become like their parents. The second form of learning is positive reinforcement. Positive reinforcement means that when your actions align with your parents' expectations, you receive praise. Conversely, if you don't meet these expectations, you face corresponding punishments, also known as conditional love. Parents do love their children, but this love is conditional. For instance, if you behave well, you receive rewards and praise. If you excel in exams, you get praised. However, without meeting these conditions, you don't feel your parents' love. In order to gain their parents' love, children make an effort to fulfill the conditions set by their parents. This positive reinforcement can easily mold a child into a people-pleaser. The author provides an example in the book, that of Samantha, a classic case of a child raised with conditional love. When Samantha was young, if she scored high on exams or behaved well during family gatherings, her father would say, "Good girl, we love you." However, if she failed to clean her room or didn't immediately greet guests with a smile, her father would ignore her for days at a time. To make her father happy, Samantha would go to great lengths to do things that pleased him. She carried this habit into her later marriage life. Samantha continuously tried to please her husband, adapting her choices in food and clothing to his preferences, like a compliant puppet. As a result, her husband took advantage of Samantha's obedience, and her compliance only worsened, turning her into a severe people-pleaser. Having discussed the second type of people-pleaser, the habitual people-pleaser, let's now delve into the third type, the emotionally avoidant people-pleaser. This category of people-pleasers seeks to please others out of fear of conflict. They presume that if they don't comply or please others, anger and conflict will inevitably ensue. To preemptively extinguish conflicts, these people-pleasers choose to suppress their own emotions and needs, yielding to the desires of others. In severe cases, emotionally avoidant people-pleasers might even endure abuse from their partners or harassment from their superiors, fearing that any decision to leave or resign would cause the other party embarrassment, triggering more intense conflict. The reason why emotionally avoidant people-pleasers continually employ the strategy of pleasing others to avoid negative emotions can often be traced back to their childhood memories. In the eyes of children, all adults appear formidable, towering in stature, higher in status, and possessing the authority to control their lives. Consequently, children's lives depend entirely on adults. When adults erupt in anger, children experience a sense of impending doom. Whether the adult's anger is directed towards their spouse or their child, the child internalizes a profound sense of fear. If parents also engage in alcohol or drug abuse, their emotions become even more unpredictable and volatile, leaving the child in constant anticipation of when the emotional storm will strike, intensifying their fear. These childhood memories of fear persist into adulthood. The author provides an example of Patricia, a 48-year-old woman who described herself as a doormat, always submissive. She was cautious and afraid of upsetting men. Her approach to dealing with men stemmed from her father's behavior. Patricia's father had a volatile temper, often getting drunk and causing disturbances, even physically abusing her mother. In an effort to protect Patricia, her mother instructed her never to argue with her father, to simply agree with whatever he said. So, Patricia heeded her mother's advice. Every time her father spoke, she would smile and respond, "Yes, Dad," then hastily retreat to her room. As Patricia grew older, she got married. Her husband was actually a very gentle and easygoing person. However, due to her upbringing with a volatile father, Patricia had an instinctive fear of potential anger. Consequently, even though she had never witnessed her husband lose his temper, she remained cautious, always feeling that her husband's anger was inevitable. Emotionally avoidant people-pleasers, fearing anger, behave similarly to how people afraid of water avoid swimming or how those with a fear of flying avoid airplanes. To avoid potential danger, they nip any sparks of anger in the bud. These are the three types of people-pleasers: cognitive, habitual, and emotionally avoidant. It's important to note that in real life, individuals we encounter who engage in people-pleasing behaviors often exhibit a combination of these types, and sometimes all three. Having discussed the three types of people-pleasers, we'll now move on to the second part: how to overcome people-pleasing tendencies. Stop being a people-pleaser. In the book, the author presents a 21-day program, which I'll summarize into 4 key methods. Method 1: Learn to say no. This is perhaps the most crucial step in curing people-pleasing tendencies. One of the most significant challenges faced by people-pleasers is their inability to say no. Even when they want to decline, they often end up saying yes to others' requests. The first step in learning to say no is to delay your response. Instead of immediately agreeing, take your time, which can give you the upper hand and a better sense of control over the situation. If someone makes a request over the phone or through messaging, you can say something like, "Can you hold on for a moment? Let me think about it, and I'll get back to you later this afternoon, is that okay?" In a face-to-face situation, you can create an opportunity to step away briefly, perhaps by going to the bar for a glass of water, visiting the restroom, or pretending to take a phone call. For most people, these methods might seem straightforward, but for people-pleasers, finding the right words to resist the impulse to say yes can be extremely challenging. If you find it difficult to come up with a suitable delay response, it's helpful to prepare a list of such responses in advance, keep it in a visible place, and review it regularly so that you can readily use them when needed. Method 2: Resist ongoing pressure. After employing the delay tactic, the other party may continue to pressure you, hoping for a quick response. This is when you can use a technique called the broken record. When faced with pressure, accurately restate the other person's emotional reaction and express your understanding. Then, repeat your delayed response, much like a broken record. For instance, if a friend calls you and says, "I need a big favor this weekend. Can you come to help me out with an important gathering? I really need you," you can use the delay strategy. "I can't confirm my availability right now. I need a couple of days to think about it, and I'll get back to you." If your friend continues to urge you by saying, "Can't you decide right now? I really hope you can come, I don't know what I'll do without you," it's time to employ the broken record technique. You can respond with, "I understand you really want me to be there," which acknowledges their request and the pressure they're exerting. Then, you can repeat your delay response, "However, I'm likely not available, so I need to check my schedule, and I'll get back to you in a day or two." The key to using the broken record technique is to avoid responding to the actual pressure content. In this example, it's, "Can't you decide right now?" Responding to the pressure content can compromise your control over the conversation. Method 3: The art of refusal. After using the delay strategies, if you determine that you cannot fulfill the other person's request, it's time to say no. There are 2 situations for refusal. 1. You absolutely cannot fulfill the request. 2. You cannot meet all of the person's demands but can provide a compromise. For the first situation, complete refusal, you can use a technique called the no sandwich. This involves sandwiching your negative response between 2 layers of compliments or affirmations. For example, "I appreciate your warm invitation, but I'm sorry, I won't be able to make it this time. However, I hope you'll consider me in the future, and I truly value our friendship." For the second situation, where you can offer a compromise, you can use the reverse sandwich technique. This involves placing your compromise between 2 layers of negative information. For instance, "I understand you'd like me to stay for the entire gathering, but I can only arrive when it's almost over. If that doesn't work for you, I completely understand. These techniques aim to cushion your refusal, making it sound firm yet gentle. In summary, the process of learning to say no involves 1. Delaying your response. 2. Resisting ongoing pressure by using the broken record technique. 3. Ultimately refusing when necessary, using the no sandwich for complete refusal and the reverse sandwich for compromises. This covers the first method to break free from people-pleasing tendencies. Next, let's introduce the second method, correcting should thinking. As mentioned earlier, there is a type of people-pleaser who tries to please others because they have a lot of shoulds in their minds. For instance, they believe they should always meet the demands and expectations of others. With this should thinking, people-pleasers set very high standards for themselves and feel compelled to be overly accommodating. To help these people-pleasers become less inclined to constantly seek approval from others, their thinking patterns need to be adjusted. For example, the belief, I should always meet the demands and expectations of others, can be transformed into, if I want to, I can choose to meet the demands or expectations of important people in my life. This shift makes their self-imposed standards less stringent. By adding phrases like, if I want to, and important people, it creates a sense of choice and control, rather than automatically complying with others' wishes. The third method to break free from people-pleasing is called self-care. People-pleasers often prioritize others' needs over their own, neglecting their innermost desires. To change this habit of pleasing others, they need to start taking care of themselves. You can create a list of enjoyable activities in your journal, which should include at least 20 activities that bring you joy. This list can encompass simple activities like having a meal with friends or playing a game of badminton, as well as more extravagant ones like taking a hot air balloon ride in Turkey or attending a show in London. How you compose this list is entirely up to you. The key is to ensure you follow through with it. Try to do 1 or 2 small things from your list every day, and aim to complete one major plan every 6 months or a year. In this process, you will gradually begin to engage in activities that make you happy, rather than solely seeking to please others. Finally, let's discuss the fourth method to overcome people-pleasing, reinvent yourself. People-pleasers often attach great importance to the label of being a good person. As a result, they become overly cautious in everything they do to maintain this image, even at the expense of their individuality. However, each person is multifaceted and cannot be limited to just the label of a good person. To overcome people-pleasing, it's essential to remove this good person label and embrace the diversity within yourself. The challenge lies in the fact that over time, people-pleasers have blurred all other aspects of their personality in their pursuit of being a good person. Therefore, they must redefine themselves. This process of self-reinvention should be a collaborative effort between oneself and trusted friends. Start by listing 10 words that describe you on paper, excluding the word good person. Then, interview several close friends and ask them to provide 10 words each to describe you. Collect these words, and you will discover that, apart from being a good person, you possess qualities such as being interesting, analytical, or humorous. Choose a few of these words that you like, and strive to develop in those directions. Slowly, you will realize that besides being a good person, you are also appreciated for your other qualities, such as being entertaining or logical. This realization will free you from the compulsion to always portray yourself as a good person. To summarize, this book has covered 3 types of people-pleasers and how each type forms. These 3 types are cognitive pleasers, habitual pleasers, and emotional avoidance pleasers. Regarding how to cure people-pleasing tendencies, we've also discussed 4 specific methods: learning to say no, correcting should thinking, self-care, and reinventing yourself. We hope these methods will help you break free from people-pleasing and lead a more authentic life. Alright, this book on people-pleasing concludes here. Congratulations on completing another book. Thank you for listening to the Tim Booker channel. Please subscribe to the Tim Booker channel, like, and share this valuable knowledge with your friends. Let's combine wisdom and practicality to achieve our financial goals and create a better future. Thank you, everyone, and goodbye.